From Bishop Ireton High School, it's Real World Wednesdays, a show featuring alumni and friends of the school for the Cardinal community and beyond. I'm Ryan Fannin, Associate Director of Advancement and a member of the BI class of 1989. And on the show today is Marte Murphy, a 1970 graduate of St. Mary's Academy, who has remained one of Bishop Ireton's biggest supporters well into the 21st century. Bishop Ireton is the current face of Catholic education in Alexandria. Opened in 1964, it has served the Alexandria community for nearly 6 decades. But before the school became co-ed in 1990, there was another prominent Catholic high school in Alexandria, St. Mary's Academy. That school, established in 1869, was responsible for the Catholic education of thousands of young women. The work of the Sisters of the Holy Cross in educating girls continued until it closed in 1990. But the legacy of the school lives on in its impressive and diverse alumni community, including current Bishop Ireton Head of School, Kathleen McNutt. One such standout alumna is Marte Murphy, who graduated from St. Mary's Academy in 1970. Marte grew up in Alexandria, and her family lived off of Telegraph Road. She had one sister who was 5.5 years older. Marte was one of the first to attend the newly built St. Louis Catholic School, which opened its doors in 1956. Marte started there in 1958 and did the entirety of her elementary education at St. Louis. In addition to being a student there, Marte and her family were also members of the St. Louis community. In 1966, she began at St. Mary's Academy. Following her graduation from St. Mary's, she attended college at the University of New Haven before beginning a long career working with Aramark. After retiring early, Marte was driven by a commitment for volunteerism and giving back. Among many other places, one of the avenues to which she gave back and where she continues to give back to this day is Bishop Ireton. Despite moving away from Alexandria, Marte was intent on giving to Bishop Ireton to promote the importance of Catholic education in Alexandria. That specific cause was born out of her positive experiences and memories from her time at both St. Louis and St. Mary's Academy.
One of my favorite memories of St. Louis was there were basically 2 wings of the building when it was first built. I believe it was like a horseshoe. There was a central portion and there were 2 classroom wings. And when I was first there in school, the second wing was being built and they only had a concrete floor in at the time. And the sisters of St. Francis, who were the nuns that were at the school when I was there, would oftentimes roller skate in the new section of the building at night or on weekends when nobody was around. They used that as their personal roller skating rink. And it was also a very interesting time because St. Louis originally had a very small church that was on Route 1 in Popkins Lane as you could turn the corner. And while I was there, the new church was built. When I was in 6th grade, they actually used the little church for classrooms. So there were 2 classes of 6th grade that attended in that small white church during that year.
So 8 years at St. Louis, and now you're ready for high school, and you go to St. Mary's Academy on Russell Road, and the year is 1966. Tell us a little bit about your early days at St. Mary's Academy and what they were like.
Well, it was a very easy transition because there were a lot of my classmates that were going to St. Mary's as well. So there were people I knew from my neighborhood, there were people I knew from school, and we'd been together a long time. So you really just shifted that community of friends from St. Louis to St. Mary's. And of course, we met all the other girls that came from the other area parishes, St. Rita's and St. Mary's and from elsewhere. And it was an interesting time because you met a lot of different young women from different places that you didn't know before, whose families had very different backgrounds. Of course, we had a lot of people that were there who had military backgrounds, and we had a lot of families that were in government service. We had several people, students that were refugees from Cuba, whose parents, who I didn't know for many years after that, were very active in terms of fighting against Castro during that time. So we've since learned a lot about those classmates, but it was a very interesting time getting to know people that were really very different from your other friends that you had made at St. Louis.
What were some of the favorite memories that stand out when you think about your time at St. Mary's Academy, as well as any teachers that really inspired you or left a lasting impression on you?
Well, we had a lot of fun. I mean, there was always fun things that happened at St. Mary's, and there was a lot of camaraderie, and we certainly got into some mischief while we were there. But there were a lot of activities that everyone was involved in. We had a theater program, and although we were a small school, we had some athletics. I believe we had a lacrosse team at the time, but everybody knew everybody. I mean, there were less than 400 girls in the whole school, and we probably had 100 in our class. So you got to know everyone, and you got to participate in all these activities with them. In terms of the teachers, there were a number of teachers that left an impression. We actually had a lay teacher, Mrs. Heffernan, who taught history, and she was a phenomenal teacher. She really got everyone not only interested in history, but was able to tie it to current events. And we also had Sister Rachel, who, to a person, the students all loved. And she really challenged us to understand what was happening in the world, not only in the newspapers, but what was happening around the world. And that was really good because it opened your eyes to some things that maybe you had never really taken a look at before about what was around you. So that they were terrific.
The history of St. Mary's Academy, it's incredible. And a lot of the folks that graduated from there know this, but I mean, the school opened in 1869 and Ireton didn't open until 1964. There was this incredible 121-year history from 1869 to 1990 when St. Mary's Academy closed its doors. But when you think about the schools and that connection, you having graduated from St. Mary's Academy in 1970, Ireton's doors were open during your time. And maybe share with us a little bit about the early connection between the two schools in the mid to late 60s and what you remember about those years.
Well, Bishop Ireton really made an effort, if you will, to be inclusive of St. Mary's Academy, not only in their activities in the theater program, in athletics. Our girls were the cheerleaders for the Ireton team. There was always a posse of Bishop Ireton boys that parked across the street in the parking lot at the Baptist Church in the morning so we could go hang out and talk to them. But Ireton really did go out of their way. They had dances, mixers as we called them then, and all of St. Mary's was always invited to them. So there was a lot of outreach and there was a lot of interchange early on. Now, not every St. Mary's Academy student, would participate in some of those activities, but there were certainly many of us who did.
You had your 50-year high school reunion, but it was delayed. Obviously, the pandemic was going on. So you combined with 70 and 71. A lot of the St. Mary's Academy grads, the Ireton grads got together. Give us your memories of that 50-year reunion that happened in 2021.
Well, there's really a lot of camaraderie that still exists between those classes. And the inaugural graduating class, the class of 68 from Bishop Ireton, has always included our class in anything that they've done in terms of reunions. And there's always an effort when we're around for us to get together with some of those folks. Now, that's not the whole class, because not everyone knew everyone in each group, but everybody to this day has still tried to keep those connections open, and everybody's always very happy to see everyone. It's just always a good time getting together and really finding out what's happened to everyone, because when you get out of college, you start your life, you get married, you have children, you have a career, and you oftentimes don't get to see those people. It's not until many years later when you have some quality time and your family has grown and maybe you're even retired, that you get to come back and learn all about what's happened to those people that were an important part of your life in high school and, what they've done and, hear about their accomplishments and the highs and lows of their lives.
You talk about that 50-year reunion, but there was also a very meaningful reunion for St. Mary's Academy, and an all classes reunion that was held on Russell Road at the old St. Mary's Academy in April of 2016. And also on that same night, honoring Sister Elizabeth Rossetti and Sister Ann Tardif, who had given so many years of service as Sisters of the Holy Cross. Share with us your memories of that special event. Over 500 people came to that amazing event.
That was an extraordinary event. The electricity in the room at that point in time, when all of those graduates came together, and many of them you had not seen for lots and lots of years. And it was such a wonderful opportunity to be back in the building, because most of us had not had an opportunity to go back into St. Mary's Academy since we graduated. So it was really a great event. It was great to honor the sisters because their work certainly extended to Bishop Ireton after St. Mary's closed. So to be able to pay tribute to them it made it for a very special evening.
After you graduated from St. Mary's Academy in 1970, Marty, I know you went on to a very successful 27-year career working for Aramark. And we'll get to that and talk more in detail about that in a few minutes. But I want to first ask a little bit about your journey after you left Russell Road, before you began your time with Aramark. Tell us about that part of your life.
Well, I went on to college, and I went into a major that no one at St. Mary's had really ever encountered before. I have a business degree with a concentration in hotel and restaurant administration. And at that point, there were very few colleges in the country that offered that as a major, and there were very few women in the major as well. So I initially got an associate's degree from a school in Boston and went on to the University of New Haven. I had been accepted to other schools, but they took all my credits, and I wanted to transfer somewhere where I wasn't going to lose any time. So I went to University of New Haven and managed to get through my program in 3 semesters so that I graduated a little bit early. So that's kind of what my education was. And then coming out of school in Connecticut, I stayed in Connecticut, and I went to work for a conference center firm that was located in Connecticut, and I was there for about 1.5 years before I went to work for Aramark.
Tell us about your experience specifically at Aramark, and maybe combine that with some advice that you would give high school young ladies and our young alumni today that really might give them some good guidance as they move through their careers in the coming years.
Well, the first thing I would say is the young women coming out of Bishop Ireton now, their opportunities are far greater than what mine were. It's a very different time. And the women of my generation really did struggle and have to work very hard in business because we were not on equal footing at that point in time. And so it made things a little bit more difficult. I would say, two of the things that I came away from St. Mary's with is a level of confidence and a level of leadership that I may not have had if I had gone to school somewhere else. And those two qualities gave me the ability to push forward in my career even when it was difficult. I know that the young women coming out of Bishop Ireton now have many more opportunities than I had. And they have a much broader education than I had. I had a wonderful education at St. Mary's, but Bishop Ireton has really built on, for women, the education that we have and enhanced it in many ways that I didn't have those opportunities. And so I think that the young women now coming out should take all the gifts that they have and all of these experiences they've had at Bishop Ireton. If they doubt themselves, know that there is a confidence that they should have because they're well educated, they've had great experiences, They've had great leadership opportunities. The world is their oyster. They should just go out there and go hard at whatever they want, because it's a different time, and they have the ability to go do anything that they want to do. Aramark was a wonderful company. It was very relationship based. I still have many of my colleagues that I am extraordinarily good friends with to this day because of the relationship and the work that we did together. It was a very special company in terms of how people work together. And for me, that was enough to keep me going every day.
Marty, once you retired, you dedicated your time to volunteering in a number of different ways. Can you tell us about those volunteer experiences and why you felt called to give your time and energy to these places that included Bishop Ireton, other schools, other organizations that were dear to your heart?
My husband and I were very fortunate to be able to retire early. And we retired at an age where we knew that we weren't going to just sit back in our rocking chairs. So we both really looked around and decided what it was that we wanted to do with our time. For me, it's always been about reading and education, because I've always believed that if you can't read or you don't read well, everything else in life is problematic for you. And we certainly have many of young people today that have issues around reading. So for me, it was an opportunity to go to the parish priest and say, we have a Catholic school. I'd like to volunteer and come in and read to the kids. So he said, fine, go talk to the principal, and I did, and she had a better idea. She wanted me to start a resource room for students that needed help with reading and other subjects, and the teachers would send them to me when I was there several days a week. So that was my foray, if you will, into volunteering in Catholic schools. Well, after having done that for a number of years, my husband and I relocated to Santa Fe, New Mexico. And once we were there, my husband got involved in some local community initiatives, and I became involved with the United Way of Santa Fe County because they had a very specialized mission there, and it was all around families and children and education. So I began doing some volunteer reading and work in the school there, and they came and asked me if I would help them, that there was a pilot project in the U.S. for 9 selected United Ways to participate in how they could create greater impact in the community. And since we had already had a very robust direct service programs around pre-K and home visiting and some other initiatives, I came in to help them on a temporary basis until they got a project manager. 2 years later, I finished the project. We didn't get a project manager. And in the meantime, I was on the board there and ultimately became the chair of the board. So my work there was really directed about education and families for those in the community that would not have otherwise been well served in either the public system of the schools. So we did work with the public school system a great deal, but it gave young people from the time they were born till the time they got into the school system, it gave them a leg up, and it gave their parents resources to help them raise those children. So for me, it was really continuing my efforts around education. And then from there, I came back to Philadelphia, and I've been involved with the Catholic Partnership Schools in Camden, New Jersey, where we're a separate 5013C, where we operate 5 Catholic schools in the Camden who are all about educating Catholic in the underserved community there. And we operate within the structure of the diocese, but we operate financially independent from them. So I have served on the board with them for about 6 years and do a lot of volunteer work at the schools.
It's such a small world, as for years, Ireton students have gone to Camden on service projects up there. And here you are living in Pennsylvania now, and you're over doing great work there in Camden as well. And, it got me thinking as, you were sharing the different stories about how, the connections of graduates from Bishop Ireton, St. Mary's Academy, and how, there's different feelings of connection. And I know for me personally, having a chance to have graduated from Ireton and work here full time for a lot of years now, my grandmother graduated from the class of 1918, St. Mary's Academy, and many of my aunts, and there's all these connections, but everybody sort of has their own thoughts about that connection to Ireton and St. Mary's Academy. Tell us about what that feeling must have been like for someone that felt so connected and has given back so much. And then all of a sudden, a fellow St. Mary's Academy graduate in 2019 becomes the head of school at Bishop Ireton and Kathleen McNutt. Explain that from your perspective.
Well, basically, it's really cool. It's terrific. It's very heartwarming because it speaks to the quality of the education, the gift, the leadership, all of the things that were a part of our experience at St. Mary's Academy started Kathleen on the road to be head of school at Bishop Ireton. And she has brought those gifts and those talents and all of the things that she learned there, and she has made sure that they're part of this program for young women at Bishop Ireton today. So I couldn't be more proud to know her and to know that she is the head of school of Bishop Ireton.
What do you think is most important when you think about the years ahead? And as you know, a lot of work's being done always to make these connections with St. Mary's Academy. But from your perspective, because you have been so involved and you think about others that have been involved or maybe been away for a while, what is sort of your vision of that continued and even growth of a connection between St. Mary's Academy and their history and Bishop Ireton?
What I would really like to see is a robust scholarship program that's been funded by graduates of St. Mary's. I think when you see the work that's being done here, it's an opportunity for almost any alum from St. Mary's Academy to be able to be a part of that. And it doesn't have to be huge gifts. Small gifts are very, very important. But if all of those gifts are put together, it can create great momentum and provide opportunities for more young women at Bishop Ireton. So what I would like to see is somehow all of the alums come together from all of the classes, and there's a scholarship created that can be funded by graduates of St. Mary's Academy.
To close out, Marty, you are very unique because you've always said in the time that I've known you and that you've interacted with our alumni, both Bishop Ireton and St. Mary's Academy, that it is so important, though St. Mary's Academy closed in 1990, to support Catholic education in Alexandria because it's alive and well today here at Bishop Ireton. What made you feel so compelled to be such a part of Bishop Ireton?
I think there was a natural connection. People talk about being a St. Mary's student and whether or not they had any connection to Bishop Ireton. Maybe they were in school there before Ireton opened, or maybe they just weren't involved in activities here. Whether you're involved in activities or not, or had a direct connection yourself while you're in school, for me, it is Bishop Ireton has taken what St. Mary's started and what they built on for over 120 years. And they've taken that and brought it here from St. Mary's to Bishop Ireton. In fact, we brought several of the Sisters of the Holy Cross and a number of our teachers from St. Mary's. And what has happened is not only has Bishop Ireton been able to pick up the work of St. Mary's Academy, but what they've been able to do in terms of creating more educational opportunities, more extracurricular activities, more community service projects. I could go on and on about it. The program now is so much greater in scope than when I was in school at St. Mary's. So for me, it's all about taking a young person, a young woman who would have been a St. Mary's student but there's no St. Mary's. And now they're at Bishop Ireton. We're doing the same work, except that it's gotten only better, and it continues to get better. So for me, it's how can I support those women, and how can they have the opportunities that I had? And as I've said, they have far greater opportunities because of how the program has grown over the years. So for me, there's no question of supporting Bishop Ireton because they've built on the legacy of the education that I received and the gifts that I received. So for me, to be able to give back is really important. My husband and I have been very fortunate, and we feel that because of that, we need to give back. And for me, as I said, it started with reading, it's about education, and it's about providing the best Catholic opportunity that young women can have here in Alexandria. And that's Bishop Ireton now.
That's Marte Murphy, St. Mary's Academy class of 1970, who continues to give back to Catholic education in Alexandria more than 5 decades later. I'm Ryan Fannin, and you've been listening to Bishop Ireton's Real World Wednesdays.